What up, young people? What up, old people? This is your boy Jimmy Smooth, and this is Hey Young World. I got a real special guest in here with me today. His name is Kevin Boink. And the reason why Kevin is in here with me today is because Kevin and I mean, we really don't have to get into how we know each other. That doesn't matter. We know each other, and we've had some conversations that they got very in depth about things that are going on in, the country, society, different point of views, things that we feel, something should be done about it. So we're going to call this the conversation that kind of makes certain people uncomfortable. And the reason why I like that is because in order for something to be done about these issues, we're going to have conversations that may make people uncomfortable. So maybe they will start to see things from a certain perspective and, do something about it. So I'm not going to, go on too much longer without, having my guests jump in here. How you doing today, Kevin?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. This is something I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and it seems like it's happening right now. So those things that I was referring to as far as things that you and I have spoken about in the past, how do you feel right now? Let's just say the state of where America is at in general right now. How do you feel about that?
To be completely honest, I think we're in a moment of crisis. This country is more divided than it's ever been, and we can't allow this to go on any longer. Something has to be done. We have to all get our heads in the game and get it straightened around.
Absolutely. So, that's a very good point, Kevin. I feel the same exact way as I feel that at this point in time in 2017, going into 2018, we have really lost sight of something that you and I talk about, the human race. Everything has become about color, and we've lost sight of that we're all human. Why do you think that is? Why do you think nobody really talks about human race and just talk about race?
I think there's an artificial divide that the man on top has created. It comes down to we're all in the same boat here. We are all the human race, but they create this artificial divide. They want to put the black man against the white man, against the brown man. It becomes a situation where the guy on top that has all the money is manipulating us into hating each other and blaming each other for what we don't have.
Okay. I mean, I agree with that. I believe that that's pretty factual. There has been rumors that there are certain people in certain places that want to see a race war happen, where you got whites against blacks and whatever race, fighting against each other. I think that is coming from a higher place, but I also believe from some of my experiences with racism and that sort of thing, I think it's more or less a taught behavior. So we've got to get down to the roots of what's really going on here. I think racism is a taught behavior. Do you think we will ever be able to stop that from happening?
I agree with you, and I think it's something that we have to get past as a people, as humans. It's easy to blame the guy that looks different than you for something. And it's the way a lot of people were brought up. I had a good friend of mine, I think I was talking to you about this the other day, a guy named Joe, big farm boy I used to know from Atlanta. Mm-hmm. We were out one night and he said something really ignorant because he saw some black people with the windows rolled down, music blazing. Mm-hmm. He said something really ignorant about it. And I looked at him and I said, Joe, they've mapped the human genome. We know that the only difference between a black man and a white man is the color of the skin, the amount of melatonin in the skin.
Okay.
There's no reason for this.
Absolutely.
And he looked at me kind of embarrassed a moment. He says, Kevin, I know that. I know that to be true, but I was raised this way. This is the way my parents brought me up. This is the way my grandparents talked. I just kind of fall back into it. It's
okay.
Taught behavior.
Okay. And so with that being said, it's kind of like something that was embedded in him as a person.
Right.
It was just like a normal reaction for him. But the fact that he recognized that he shouldn't have maybe said it, but it's just something that's embedded in him, maybe there's a chance for him to, you think, ever to change his point of views on certain things?
Absolutely. I think that's growth. I think when you realize you're falling into that kind of behavior and you recognize it, you can step beyond it and get past it.
Right. Absolutely. How much of Donald Trump do you think had to do with Charlottesville? I mean, I don't think he necessarily sponsored it, but
he lit the match.
Okay.
He lit the match and let the fuse burn.
Okay.
He empowers the racists. He empowers the people to feel that way because he comes across that way from step one. He might not have directly started it, but he speaks to racism. He falsely denied not knowing who David Duke was during the campaign, when it was purely clear that he did.
Yeah.
He spoke in code to the white supremacists throughout the race.
Right.
He ran the memes with Pepe the Frog in them on his websites. He repeated false data from white supremacist race sites throughout the campaign.
Okay.
Now that he's president, he's continued this kind of an attitude.
Okay.
This is not what America is about. This is not what America should be about. And he appoints Steve Bannon and other white supremacist, alt-right people to his cabinet.
Right.
This is unprecedented in human history. We like to call it a false equivalency and say, oh, the left's no better than the right's no better than the left.
Right.
That's the kind of crap Trump tried to sell after Charlottesville.
Right.
It's not true. It's not true. There is a difference between Nazis and people who oppose Nazis.
Okay.
Violence is never the answer, but
right.
Violence against fascism is an understandable response.
Absolutely.
It doesn't forgive it, but it's an understandable response. When we saw
Right.
that one Nazi, whose name I can't remember, get punched in the face at that one rally, most of America cheered. Sure, a man got punched in the face. We didn't like to see that, but
Right.
he called for it.
It needed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to happen to express the rage of the people who are seeing their rights, their very being stepped upon.
Okay. Now, something that has been talked about before, I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. I want to know, do you agree with it or disagree with it? Do you believe in something called white privilege? Do you believe in that, or do you believe that that's something that is mind over matter?
I think a lot gets made of the concept of white privilege,
Okay.
and I've had a couple of white friends who I've talked with about this, and they're blind to it. They say there's
Okay.
no such thing as white privilege.
Okay.
That's because they live in it. They've
Okay.
always had that comfortable pedestal that they never earned, but it's given to them by nature of who they are.
Okay.
People who don't think there's white privilege don't understand from a different point of view. If they talk to their girlfriends, if they talk to their wives, the moment a woman drives into a place to get a car repaired, she is treated as less than. She is treated as somebody who is ignorant and doesn't know what they're talking about. Because there's also male privilege.
Okay. I agree with that. Yeah.
Man never experiences that.
Right.
So a white man doesn't experience white privilege. They're blind to it because they don't see it. They've had it their entire life.
Right. Right.
It takes a lot of self-awareness to realize that you've had something like that your whole life.
Right. And I've had many conversations with many different races of people about these type of topics, and I had a white guy that I was real cool with, and one day he asked me, he said, "Why is it when because he was talking about how he had been with some other black guys and they got pulled over." And he said, and I agree with him to an extent, but then I had to explain to him why this goes on. He said, why is it when we got pulled over, I was really the only one to compromise with the officer? And the other ones kind of, which were the black guys in the car, gave him, they didn't give him lip, but they kind of like stood up for their rights. Because the officer, I guess, was asking them to step out of the car. Well, we don't have a right to ask anyone to step out of a car with probable cause. If all the paperwork is legit, the driver's license is on point, no warrant, you don't smell any type of drug, you can't ask anyone to step out of the car. Either you're going to give me a ticket, let me go, whatever. He said, why do the black guys become a little more confrontational? And the reason that is because in that instant moment, you almost feel like you have to be defensive. So that kind of goes back to what you said, for every action there's a reaction. Now, I agree, sometimes when you get in those situations, you should cooperate a little more. But you kind of put your guard up, and that's your way, I guess, of expressing that. My point of even telling that story is because, like I said, he asked me why so. And I just wanted to, kind of put that out there in the air. Like, it's different, and that's kind of where I tie white privilege into that.
Yeah, you're coming
It's
from
different.
an entirely different experience, and
Yeah.
that's understandable. I had a similar situation years ago driving in D.C. with a black friend of mine who was a coworker, and suddenly we're pulled over for no reason. And as the cop's walking up to the car, my friend says, "Oh, it's DWB." I've never heard the expression before. Cop comes up in the window and knocks on my window. I roll down my window and he says, "Is everything okay here?" It's like, "Yeah, we're going to lunch, man." But it was because I had a black man sitting in the car next to me. I get pulled over. And I was cooperative right away. He was maybe a little defensive.
Right.
And what you were saying earlier, I mean, it's always a good idea when you've got, especially with all the stories you hear about white cops shooting black men,
Right.
it's always a good idea to cooperate with a guy who's got a gun. It could be potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
But you've got to feel threatened by this. You got to feel like, okay, why is he in my face?
Right. So, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Kevin. It's great to be able to have this conversation with you and you understand where I'm coming from here. You know what I mean? It's not like you're looking at me like, what are you talking about? You get that reaction from a lot of people sometimes when you speak about these type of things.
Right.
So with Donald Trump, I want to kind of get back into Donald Trump because I know how you feel about certain things and I want people to hear it. What direction do you think we're moving in right now as a country with Donald Trump being our leader?
Absolutely the wrong direction. We have to have a course correction here immediately.
Okay.
The day Trump was elected, I was angered, I was dismayed. How do we go from hope and change of Barack Obama to Donald Trump in 8 years?
Yeah.
That's mind-boggling. We're going in the right direction, suddenly we're going to go the other direction entirely.
Right. Absolutely.
We can't do this as a country.
So, I mean, do you see a lot of conflict and wars on the way, or do you see conflict coming with him, the way he conducts himself?
I fear it. I fear that we have someone who is unfit for office at best, a reality show con man who tried to run a long con and stumbled into the White House at best. At worst, we have a dangerously unstable commander-in-chief that could lead us into a nuclear war with North Korea because he gets pissed off in the morning.
Yeah, and that's what it appears to be because my thing is right now, from the little that I have paid attention to that, being honest, what is the beef with North Korea? What is it that he's trying to conquer? When they went over into the Middle Eastern countries, I felt like that was about oil and trying to control that.
I think a lot of the Middle East was about oil.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's more complicated than that, I suppose. The Middle East has been unstable for our entire lifetimes.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing comes down to Korea. The Korean War never resolved anything. It's still conflicted over there. Not to get into a history lesson, but it's a mess over there, and it always will be.
Okay.
And Kim Jong-un is a dangerous guy.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump is, again, at best, an amateur who doesn't know how to deal with diplomacy, doesn't know the issues he's dealing with, and he can get drug into a Twitter war with Rosie O'Donnell at a moment's notice. And the man's got a nuclear weapon.
You said the president could start having conflict with Rosie O'Donnell at any moment, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he goes off against, actors in Hollywood, Nordstrom's for not carrying his daughter's fashion line.
Yeah.
He's doing that when he's commander-in-chief. He's going off on that kind of thing.
Right.
What happens when that guy decides to push the button?
Yeah, it's over. I mean, that goes to show you where he's really at mentally. This is a business for him. You got to understand, this guy has photos with celebrities from back when, like 80s and 90s. I remember seeing him. Wasn't he in like in a McDonald's commercial one time? I think it was.
Sure, he had a cameo in that movie with Macaulay Culkin.
Home Alone.
Yeah, Home Alone. He did a cameo in Home Alone, exactly.
They were in the Trump Hotel, I think, in that movie.
More power to him when he's doing that. He's got a hit show, The Apprentice. Good for him.
Right.
But I don't want that mirroring our country.
So basically, we have an entertainer running our country.
Yeah, we got a reality show. We don't have a country
mogul
anymore. We have a reality show.
Wow, that's sad to hear. As far as Donald Trump, do you think he's going to make it? Do you think there's someone bold enough out there to try to pull a JFK? I mean,
I would hate to see that happen. I would rather
Yeah.
see things go.
Right, I agree.
The guy who's investigating him right now, Robert Mueller, he's a chess player.
Okay.
He's 5 moves ahead of Trump right now.
Wow.
Trump's got the presidential pardon. Mueller's brought in the state of New York to work against it because Trump can't overturn a state decision.
Okay.
Suddenly, he can be prosecuted on a state level, even if he can't be on a national level.
Okay.
I think the system will bring Trump down. The American people, when they say enough, we won't do this. We'll vote somebody else in. We will change this. That's when things happen. I hope it doesn't come down to the lone gunman.
Okay. All right. I mean, I agree with you. I don't wish. You can't wish that on anyone. You shouldn't.
Right.
I mean, but at the same time, this guy is outrageous. I mean, at any given moment, he reacts on emotions, and that's a bad thing when you have
We
that
don't want to
much
give
power.
the white supremacists a martyr, though. We don't want to give them somebody to hold up and say, this is the man who fell for our cause. Don't let those guys have that.
Right. Absolutely. Let me something when it ties into white supremacy. A lot of people think that the Black Panther Party was considered a black supremacy. From the research that I have done, it was not a black supremacy. It was more or less of a thing where they wanted to build up their own people at a time where they were being tore down by, oppressed by other people, white people. So let me put this on your mind. Why is it that the Black Panthers were destroyed? And why is it that white supremacy is still alive today? And it's gotten bigger.
Well, I think you've probably read on this more than I have, but
Okay.
It comes down to me, when you're on the bottom as the Black Panthers were, as Black Lives Matter is, as any organization from that position is, anything you do can be perceived as radical by the people on top.
Okay.
And when you're on top, you can continue to have your ideas mainstreamed a little bit. And
Okay.
unfortunately, that's what's starting to happen with the alt-right white supremacy now and Donald Trump in office. These ideas are becoming more mainstreamed.
Okay.
And that's dangerous. That's very
Right.
dangerous. All the Black Panthers wanted, all Black Lives Matter wanted is an even playing field.
And that's it. That's it. But why is it that you think that it's so hard for certain white people to understand that that's what we want? What do you think that do you think that some of them feel that we don't deserve that? What do you think it is?
I think racism is a very attractive idea in some ways, and it's a very good way of blaming somebody else for your problems.
Right.
I think a lot of people, white people or people on top, whatever, when they start to see that they aren't getting the job they want, when they start to see they aren't getting the advantages they want, they're inclined to blame somebody else. They're inclined to blame the Mexican guy who took their job, the black guy who took their job, whatever, because they don't want to look at the perhaps deficiency in themselves that they didn't earn what they thought they should have, or that the system was set up in such a way they didn't get what they wanted.
Right.
It's easier to blame somebody that looks different than you as the cause of your problem rather than blame yourself or a nebulous system you can't even identify.
Right, absolutely. So, at this point, it's safe to say that racism is kind of here to stay. And the only thing that we really can do is people like you and I is be an example of, that we can get along regardless of the color, the difference in the color of our skin, or regardless the difference of cultural background. Like you made the comment earlier about the guy who had something derogatory to say about the black people who had their windows down and their music blasting. First of all, I want to clear that up. That is offensive universally it's a universal thing with older people. My mom is offended by it.
Sure,
you know what I mean? So when I go visit my mom, she's, like, hey, turn that down. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I've seen white kids do it too.
Yeah, I mean the old thing is if it's too loud, you're too old. You play your music loud at times. Everybody's got that.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think at this point in time, I think it's like I said, it's going to take people like you and I to get out there and talk about what we're talking about for there to be a change. It has to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
It's bigger than you and I, but it has to start somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? It definitely has to start.
And we're lucky enough to have every once in a while a transformative figure like a Barack Obama,
Yeah.
like a Martin Luther King, somebody
Yeah.
come in and change that, or even a LeBron James, somebody who
Yeah.
can touch a lot of people just by his talent and
Right.
become that inspiration for people. But yeah, we all need to follow that lead, to accept that change.
Right, absolutely. And you were speaking to me. I don't know if you want to talk about your grandson.
Absolutely.
He-
Because that is deeply personal to me,
Yeah.
and what means so much to me during this.
Okay.
This is why I was so upset when Donald Trump won the White House and that he did and said the things he did. I have a grandson who's of mixed race. I also have a nephew of mixed race. They're young.
Can you please say what race that they're intermixed with?
They're both partially black.
Okay. All right.
African American, whatever phrase is currently politically correct,
Right,
it's
right.
all the same. It comes down to most people in America, I think, are starting to go this way. The TV, the sitcom Modern Family, that's most people's families. A lot of us do have multiple races in our family. I love my grandson more than anything in the world. He is my best buddy.
Right.
He's 8 years old.
Okay.
He doesn't know he's of mixed race yet.
Okay.
He isn't old enough yet to think of himself as white or black or anything like that.
Okay.
And there's already people who are judging him because of that.
Okay.
Who are going to tell him that he is less than right now. I find that unacceptable.
Okay.
I do not want that for my grandson, for my nephew, for anybody else's children or grandchildren. We're all men, we're all women. We should all have the same opportunities. We should all have the same expectations. We should all be recognized by our worth, not by the color of our skin or anything else.
Now you said he's already kind of dealing with issues of being made feel like he's less than because of being biracial. Who are these people? I guess I want to know that maybe making him feel this way.
I don't want to go quite that far with it because
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not there when he goes to school and such. I haven't
Okay.
been personally exposed to some of this.
Okay.
But I know there have been opportunities where he, in his innocence, has said things which have gotten him in trouble in school because of the influence of another family member.
Okay.
He made a comment at school one day about towel heads, not knowing what he was saying. He
Right.
was 7 years old at the time.
Right.
He didn't know what he was saying. He was
Right.
saying something that another beloved family member had said to him, and
He
out of
repeated
pure
it.
innocence and pure ignorance, he said something offensive in school.
Okay.
Now, luckily, he's got a wonderful mother and father
Okay.
who understand the world and understand him and his situation, and they are leading him on that right path.
Okay.
But
But it's going to take everybody around him to be on board with what his mother and father is doing.
I worry about the environment that he is growing into, especially if we continue down the path as a country that we're going in now.
Okay.
If it becomes acceptable to have these alt-right, these white supremacist beliefs, if it
Right.
becomes mainstream, that is a dark future for those children.
Okay. All right. Now, my thing is that when you're dealing with biracial kids, do you feel like they should have to pick a side, or should they be able to deal with both sides?
I don't think it is accepted. I don't think they have to pick a side.
Okay.
I think you can be whatever you want to be. You can be. I think it's almost a mistake to try to decide that you're going to be black or you're going to be white or whatever.
Right.
Isn't it all one? I mean, certainly there's a black culture, there's a white culture,
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
But can't we enjoy both?
Absolutely. My thing is like you hear people say black music, white music. All I hear is good music. If music is good, how do you feel? Do you feel like there's a such thing as white music, black music, or do you feel like good music is good music?
I kind of feel both ways.
Okay.
I hear rap music, and
Okay.
I got to say a lot of it doesn't speak to me. But it wasn't written to me. It was
All
written.
right.
It was written for a young black
For
man.
me, yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
I get that. I understand that. My music was the punk. My music
Okay.
was the Ramones and
Okay.
the Dead Kennedys and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Okay.
So that was my rebellious, youthful music.
Right,
But,
right.
I mean, it all says the same thing when it comes right down to it, though, just in different language.
Absolutely.
For the culture it was invented for.
Absolutely, and that's the thing about those groups that you named, like the Dead Kennedys, and it was very rebellious type of music, and that's the spirit of hip hop right there.
Right,
You know what I mean?
that's youth. Rebellion is a part of youth, and music is an expression of that. It's all speaks to the same impulses that we all have.
But when I say white music, black music, I mean, you're right. You said it doesn't, and the Dead Kennedys does not necessarily speak to me. I can relate to it because, like you said, it's a rebellious spirit that's going on with it. But at the same time, is it wrong for a black kid to listen to Dead Kennedy, and is it wrong for a white kid to listen to Ice Cube?
I think it's an expression of the human experience, whether it's your personal experience or not, and I think we can all appreciate the artistry involved in whatever kind of music.
Right. Because that's what it's an art form.
Right.
And that's the way we should embrace it. I want to get more into your views on what do you think that you personally can do to change things for people like your grandson and your nephew and people of color or people that are black. What can you do personally? Because you're only one man. You know what I mean? But what is it that you feel like you can do yourself to make somewhat of a difference?
I feel, from a purely kind of parental point of view, as a grandparent, there's someone else in the family that has decided they're going to toughen Roman up. They're going to toughen him up and get him that way. And I've always told my wife, my goal is to smarten Roman up. My goal is to share different viewpoints with Roman. He and I, at the age of 7, argued for months who was going to win in the fight between Batman and Superman. I look forward to someday having those same discussions with him on political issues,
right.
And give him, respecting his viewpoint, but giving him other viewpoints and helping shape his viewpoints and getting him to be a critical thinker and to look at a situation from multiple viewpoints and decide his own point of view.
Okay.
That's my goal for him and any young person that I might encounter, is to give them that framework.
Okay, absolutely. And I mean, that's more than a lot of people will ever do to contribute to these issues, you know what I mean? So that's the great thing. At this point of the game, can Democrats and Republicans be friends? Can they hang out, go have a beer together?
That's a very challenging thing. I've got some very conservative friends.
Okay.
It's been hard to hold on to those conservative friends because I mean, to be looking back over the years, I've been on different sides of the argument. I voted for Ronald Reagan many years ago. That's how old I am. I'm an old guy, I confess.
I want to talk about that, but go ahead. I'm listening.
I voted for Ronald Reagan because at the time I thought he was the person America needed.
Okay.
I also voted for Bill Clinton.
Okay.
I voted for Barack Obama.
Okay.
My original inclination was to vote for John McCain because I respected a lot of things John McCain said, and it was like, who the hell's this Barack Obama guy? He came out of nowhere. I don't know him.
Yeah.
And then when I heard more and more what Barack Obama had to say, the things he represented, the beliefs he had, the things he wanted to implement, he won me over.
One thing I want to say about any president, as anything in life, I think that they all come with pros and cons.
Absolutely, and I think that's where people get that false equivalency I spoke of earlier. They want to say, South Park, the old thing about every election came down to a choice between a giant douche and a shit sandwich. There's something to that until we get to this latest election where Donald Trump has lowered that bar so far. It's not just a question of political choice. I voted for Barack Obama because I believed in Barack Obama. I did not think John McCain was a bad man. If John McCain had won the White House, I would have disagreed with a lot of the things he'd done, would have been okay with it. I voted for Barack Obama a second time. Mitt Romney I didn't think was a bad man. If he'd have won, the country would have been okay.
Right.
I don't agree with a lot of the things he believes in, but I think it would have been okay.
Okay.
I don't think the world's okay with Donald Trump. I think we're all in imminent danger. I think the country is going in a bad direction. I do not think he has the values that America has. I don't think it's that equivalency there. Hillary Clinton was a flawed candidate.
Right.
Every candidate that's ever run for the office has been a flawed candidate. Nobody represents you and I anymore.
Absolutely.
But we can't go as far as we've gone now.
Right. My thing is do you feel like, you know what I mean? You were talking about with Donald Trump as far as him he's not what we need right now. Okay. What do you think? I mean, what is it that we need right now? It's not Donald Trump. What do you think that it is that we need?
We need unity. We need to be brought together rather than divided. I mean, it's become a cliche that this country is very divided, that it's a very divisive situation. But it's also true. We've never been as divided as we are right now. You know, people talk about a civil war again.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen, but you know, it's that far where people have that different a viewpoint.
Okay.
The reason to circle back around to what you said, Democrats and Republicans can certainly be friends as long as we can respect each other's viewpoints.
Okay.
And I have conservative friends who I respect their viewpoints. They respect my viewpoints. I have a hard time respecting the viewpoints of somebody who is a diehard Trump supporter.
Okay.
Their core values are different than mine.
Okay.
They don't look at you and I and see two men. They see us as different, and that's unacceptable. That's not what our country was founded on.
Okay.
Our forefathers, as flawed as they may have been, wanted all men to be created equal. They wanted to believe that we all had those inalienable rights, that we all were the same, and that's the core values of our country.
Do you think certain people that may have voted for Trump, they regret it now?
I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse. I think a lot of people are looking at that and regretting their decision. I think some people won't face up to that though. They look at the situation. It's like they're watching a football game. Depending on whether you're rooting for the Browns or the Steelers, you see that replay differently.
Right.
You say good call or bad call depending on whose team it's on. It's time to get off the Trump train, people.
Right.
He's not good for the Republican Party. He's not good for the country. Admit you made a mistake. He's not the guy he said he was. He's not the guy you thought he was.
Right.
He's not the guy that should be running this country.
So it's time to get off the Trump train and start living in reality, huh?
Right, yeah.
Now, you said that back in whatever year Ronald Reagan was running, I was born in 84.
I'm old, dude. It was 1980 when he first ran.
What's that, 88?
1980, and then he ran again in 84.
84, and then he was president to 88. 84 to 88.
80 to 88. He had 2 terms.
A lot of people, him and Nancy Reagan was his first lady.
Right.
First of all, let me ask you, Kevin, who was he running against? Remember?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Who was he running against that second term, the 84 term?
84? Jeez, I couldn't even tell you now. It's been too many years.
I don't want to lose track of what we're talking about, but do you remember the guy who ran? I can't remember what election that was. It had to have been 90 something because I remember it. Remember the Purdue chicken?
Oh, Ross Perot? Is that you mean?
Yeah, okay, so that's the Purdue chicken man, right?
No, actually, Ross Perot was a millionaire, kind of like Donald Trump is.
But him and the Purdue chicken man look alike, right?
A lot of people said that.
I thought they were the
same
people.
No, Ross Perot was a kind of an independent millionaire. He had a lot of good ideas. He didn't have the experience. He may have had some of Trump's flaws in that regard. But he was a very populist guy. His viewpoints were neither conservative nor liberal. They were more down-to-earth, real American viewpoints, which had a lot of people ready to vote for him until he dropped out of the race.
Okay, so that's his story. So that was not the Purdue chicken man. We're clearing it up. Hey, they could have been related for all we know, man. You never know. But I'm sure if they were, we would have known. They would have made that, publicly known. So Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan was his wife. A lot of people blame them for the introduction of the crack cocaine epidemic. Do you agree or disagree with that? Because Nancy Reagan at the time, I believe, Nancy Reagan was the one that started the DARE program.
Yes. Nancy Reagan started the whole "just say no" thing.
Right.
I mean, they definitely campaigned against drugs. I wouldn't kind of try to pin that kind of thing on them, but it is historical fact that the CIA ran drugs out of Vietnam towards the end of the Vietnam War, kind of according to conspiracy theories to pacify the inner city, to slow down the scary things that they thought had happened in the 60s where people had social unrest and talked about overthrowing the system. Mm-hmm. According to conspiracy theories, they purposely pacified that with drugs. So they basically gave them drugs to calm them down, basically. Right. Get them worrying about other things. And, out of the social justice arena.
Really? So that's how they tie that whole epidemic up into the Reagan era.
Right.
Huh. That's very deep. Do you think Vietnam is the worst war that we've been in yet? What war would you say has been from your research?
Well, there's no good war. I mean,
Right.
World War II, the war to end all wars. They said, that kind of thing. The current war we're in has been longer than any other war has been.
Right.
They're all bad.
I agree with you on that. The reason why I asked you that is because, I've read about certain wars like the Vietnam War, and out of all the other ones, and I was alive during the Desert Storm. So, out of all of them, the aftermath of Vietnam was the worst one out of all the wars. Because the reason why I say that is because the guys, when you see the guys come home, the condition that they're
I think
in.
that's it. I think Vietnam was transformative because it was the first war that the mass media brought into our living rooms. We saw the bodies. We saw the devastation. We saw dead soldiers being brought in on helicopters. It was no longer an abstract thing as it had been in World War II and Korea and all of that. We were living it. We were seeing it while we ate dinner.
Right, exactly. I mean, I wasn't seeing it, but the footage that I've
Right.
seen, it just looked like it was a real, horrific type of thing. It was a lot going on over there. I mean, you hear about the boo-boo traps, what do they call it, boo-boo traps or whatever, you step on them and they just go off.
Civilian children carrying, explosive devices and luring soldiers in. It was horrific.
Right. So you remember that time period and all of that. Okay. That's a good thing because I like talking to people about that who actually lived through it. My mom remembers some of that stuff. Of course, I have other family members that do as well. The thing that I want to get into with you is at some point we're going to all have to take responsibilities for our own actions, and the reason why I say that is the reason why I say that we're going to have to take responsibilities for our own actions is because that's the way that we're going to make this change, that we're going to turn everything around. Do you think that it would happen in our lifetime?
I think it really needs to stop us from doing the things we're doing right now. We need to reverse this right now.
Okay.
I think our children and our grandchildren are going to look at us one day and say, "What did you do during this time?" It's time to take a stand.
Right.
It's time to stand up and say what you believe in and do something about it.
How do you feel about religious leaders at this point? And the reason why I'm asking you that, do you feel like at the time that we're in America, and I don't really think everybody realizes the times that we're in right now, things are kind of tough right now. I mean, it's an uncomfortable feeling in the air right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with the Donald Trump's in office. I mean, it's an uncomfortable feeling. Do you feel like religious leaders, they should take more of a stance? And and then there's a second part to that question. But do you feel like they should get more involved?
Absolutely, I certainly do. I think religious leaders can be very transformative that way. I think they need to step up and do that. I think a lot of them, I'm disappointed because they don't. Like right now down in Houston, Joel Osteen not opening his church to the people who are. I mean that's a travesty.
Right.
These are people that people look to in time of need. They need to be there for them.
Yeah, and the thing is that as we all know, the Muslims, a certain group of Muslims, get a bad look in America as always being terrorists, and
Absolutely.
and a lot of where they go, the mosques or whatever to worship, a lot of them opened up as soon as everything had happened.
Well, what most white men and Americans, at least, don't really understand is that Islam is something more than ISIS.
Right.
It's something more than what they see the radical terrorists.
Right.
It's a legitimate religion. Just like there are extreme Christian people, bombing abortion clinics. What they see when they see terrorism is not the true face of Islam.
Right, absolutely. So, as far as the whole Joel Osteen thing, after after a while, I thought it was pretty comical because he got on Good Morning America and he was very confused. You can kind of tell when somebody told them to say this, so they're trying to repeat it.
Right.
Like, a spokesperson behind the scenes telling you what to say. That's the way he came across when he got on Good Morning America. And he just had this look on his face like, first of all, he was upset that, hey, I got to let all these people come in here because y'all putting pressure on me on social media. If I don't let these people come in here, then my image is going to be ruined.
Right.
So he was in a tough situation. This guy, keeps in mind, has a cafe and a gift shop inside his church, right?
Yeah.
Is this a business that he's running, you feel, or is this more or less about the people?
I have nothing but respect for ministers. Well, honestly, I'm a minister. I'm an ordained minister myself.
Okay.
On a very, very small level.
Okay.
But yeah, I have nothing but respect for the clergy who are legitimate clergy. But when you start getting up into that kind of a level, I think you become a showman. You become more of a huckster, of a businessman.
Right.
And they lose sight of what brought them to the ministry.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the whole situation that happened down in Houston, the thing that I hate about those type of situations is that it's 2017, right? I think the last big hurricane we had, I was looking at, it was 2000, and it was one after Katrina. I want to say this is 2012, maybe. I don't really remember.
Yeah, I don't remember what year that was, but yeah.
But it's natural disasters, and the thing is that this happened in 2017. This can happen again.
It will happen again.
Yeah, this is nothing that you can stop. Yeah, this is not like, getting a president out of office. This is a natural disaster. That's a very unfortunate situation what has happened to those people down there. We complain about being in Ohio, but we never have to go through those things.
We don't have those climate extremes.
Where we sit at, yeah, definitely. So, do you think Trump is going to go another term after this one?
Honestly, maybe it's wishful thinking on my part, but I don't see him lasting through this term.
Okay.
I think he's going to resign. I think as the heat gets harder on him, as they start to bring together all of the threads of the Russia situation and his business dealings, I think he's going to be forced to resign.
You think if he resigned, you think he'll take his toupee off? Hey, man, he's starting all over, man.
I think he's going to die with that thing on.
Hey, man, I don't know if that thing is a hat or a toupee. I don't know.
I think it's a living animal.
Man, like, it's just sitting on top of his head all the time.
Just nesting there.
The thing is that the way I feel about Donald Trump, I haven't really said much about how I feel about him. I think he's downright embarrassing. When he gets on TV and he speaks, it's like, what is this? What is this guy? What is he talking about? Like, it's almost like you lose sight of what he's even talking about or what's really going on. Like, you have to look at the bottom of the screen every now and again to even see what it is that he's addressing.
It would be hilarious if he wasn't running the country.
And, I'm convinced that there's a black man at everything that he does. Well, not now, but every rally that he had, there was always this black guy. And it was the same exact black guy.
Right.
And he was standing behind
Trump.
You know that guy?
Absolutely.
Hey, I don't know what's going on. Either he was paid or he was compensated. I don't know. Maybe he's just a Trump supporter. Huh? You think
I can't imagine he wasn't paid in some way.
Okay. All right. I agree with you on that. Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you know about this. This is just something I'm curious to hear how you react to it. Lil Wayne was on, I think, was it 60? Nah, it wasn't 60 Minutes. He was on, it might have been 60 Minutes. He was on one of those shows, and this happened earlier this year, maybe. And they asked him, how did he feel about Black Lives Matter? And he said that does not affect him. And I'll even give you the story that he told. When Lil Wayne was, I think he was 16, 17. You know who Lil Wayne the rapper is, okay? He's 16, 17 years old, and he was playing around with a gun. He was playing around with a gun. So he had cocked it back, and the bullet went into the chamber, whatever. He pulled the trigger, and he shot himself, okay? Well, there was a white cop that came in there and that saved him. All right? Cool story. But based upon that, he said he had never experienced racism as a black man. Remind you, he was in the heart of the South. He's from, like, Louisiana somewhere. So he said he's never experienced. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like he's paid off? He's been paid to say certain things. How do you feel about when people?
I find it hard to believe that, like you said, being a black man in the South, that's the only racial touchstone he has. I can't imagine he hasn't felt the other side of that.
Right.
I mean, it's wonderful that he had that transformative experience from a understanding white cop, but
right.
Is that the only experience he's ever had with racism? That's amazing to me.
Yeah, and that's the way I felt. I felt that was just one story, and I felt like it was a great story. I felt like that cop did what any cop should do. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
I wish there were more stories like that.
I do too. I do. But does that mean that you've never experienced racism? I don't know. I think some people get to a certain plateau in life and they lose sight of reality.
Right.
And they no longer like. There was one time OJ said he wasn't black. He's OJ. Okay, that's cool. I get that. You know what I mean? But that goes to show you that he's gotten to a place in his life where he no longer identifies with who he is, and he's OJ.
Exactly. I mean, OJ's reality is not the same as your reality, my reality.
Yeah.
I mean, to touch on the whole OJ thing for a moment, OJ got off because he was rich.
Okay.
He didn't get off because he was black. If he'd been a poor black man, he'd be in jail.
Yeah.
He was
absolutely.
rich. He was famous, so he got away with it.
I agree with you on that one. I totally agree with you on that one. And I think when he went to jail for taking his own memorabilia.
Right.
I think they kind of tied that in that, hey, you got off the first time.
Sure, they got him for something they could get him for.
Yeah. But he's on his way home. He should be home in any moment, I guess. October. I don't know.
Now.
I'm curious to see what OJ would do next. I mean, hope he doesn't get back into the showbiz.
I think he'll probably quietly deal in memorabilia and get on with his life and try to stay out of the public eye if he's smart.
Yeah, that's the smartest thing to do at this point. I mean, you've had your run with the public, and it hasn't really been all that great, or at least towards the end, it wasn't. So
unless they make another Naked Gun movie he can do, I think he's finished.
That came across my mind. Is the lead guy, is he still alive?
Leslie Nielsen, Naked Gun movies.
Yeah,
I think he's still with us.
Okay. I don't know. That would be pretty interesting to see how that turns out. I mean, they're both older now. I think he's a little older than OJ.
Yeah, I suspect so.
Yeah. So, hey, one day you told me to check out some George. What's his name? George Carlin.
George Carlin.
Yeah, the comedian. That guy, man, is pretty funny, man. I remember him having a TV show when I was younger. And the TV show compared to the material that I heard on YouTube is nothing. It's nothing alike. So, shout out to you for putting me on the George Carlin stand-up.
He was very cutting edge at the time.
Yeah, definitely was. Who's your favorite stand-up? Because we briefly had a conversation about this before. Who's your favorite stand-up comedian?
You put me on the spot there. There's just too many, and I couldn't pick a favorite nowadays.
Okay, all right. Who do you feel like was, if you can give me this one, who do you feel like was the most politically charged one, to the point where they talked about politics and they weren't afraid?
I got to go with Bill Maher right now.
Okay.
Bill Maher is speaking his mind, and it's mostly political, but he still remains funny and topical at the same time.
Okay, Bill Maher is the same one that used the N-word not too long ago, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. He's the one that got on TV and apologized. He's on HBO,
right.
Showtime, something like that. Yeah. Well, that's another issue right there. You know what I mean?
You can do at least an hour on that.
Huh?
You can do at least an hour on that.
Yeah. I feel like I've been told by certain white guys that it's okay if you call me certain derogatory names that we might call each other, and I don't think that that's appropriate for me to refer to you to certain terms. How do you feel about white guys who use the N-word, and they're not using it necessarily to be offensive, but how do you feel about that? Do you feel like that's okay? Do you feel like that's ignorant? How do you feel about it?
I think a lot depends on context. I think certain words should just be eliminated from our vocabulary in general.
Right.
But in the workplace, I had a situation where a customer called one of my coworkers the N-word.
Okay.
And when I heard that, I went to the store manager and I said, he just called him the N-word. And I
Right.
didn't say N-word, I
Yeah.
used the word.
Yeah.
Now, to my mind, my using it in that context is way different than the customer using it in that context. I'm reporting what was said.
I would
So
agree.
I don't think what I said was necessarily offensive, although I was warned about it. You can't use that word. I'm just saying what he said. I'm pointing out that this customer, this ignorant son of a, said this.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's a very sensitive subject. I mean, not too long ago in the workplace, someone used it, and they weren't. I don't think that they were using it in a derogatory way. But later on down the line, something happened in between it, and I questioned that at that point. But moving along from that, yeah, I feel like you said, certain things should be eliminated from your vocabulary. I use it. I'm gonna be honest with you. The reason why I use it more of a term of endearment.
sure.
There's a time and a place for everything.
Just like women calling each other, can I say
B
B-word?
words.
Yeah.
Everything, I know what you mean. Can I say the B?
Yeah, you
everything.
claim that,
Yeah,
it's-
I think that's ignorant though.
We all use language we shouldn't use at times,
Well,
Just depends on context.
my thing with that is, it's like, why are you guys referring to each other as that? I mean, isn't there something else that I can come up with a little better than that? I mean, I'm gonna teach my kid not to run around and use those type of things so loosely. I was always taught those type of words, like call somebody the B word. I was always taught those were fighting words.
Right.
Those are words where you say before a confrontation is about to take place. You know what I mean? So, but everybody's different. I'm learning that about the world. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to handle things differently. Everybody is going to react to things differently.
Sure.
And that's the part where we have to take, in some instances, we have to take color out of it and just talk about human race.
Right.
But that's not something you hear a lot today.
No.
You know what I mean? And I think you're like one of the few people that I've heard talk about the human race just overall. Like, you know what I mean? And stop talking about white, stop talking about black, because there are things that make us, that we have in common as humans, period.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, but hey, this is Hey Young World. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Kevin, this is the part of the show where we say a few things before we get out of here. Just go ahead and speak your mind and just say what you need to say.
Well, I got to thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for coming.
And I just want to reiterate, people, be the change. Think for yourself. Don't let people divide us. We're all one.
Absolutely, man. We need more people out here bringing that same message. I definitely bring you back, man. I definitely want you to come back.
I'd be happy to do it. I had a good time.
Be a part of some other things that I plan on doing in the future. But if anyone has any comments, feedback from today's show, please hit me at www.heyyoungworldmedia@gmail.com. And that's pretty much it. We'll be back in here next Wednesday from 5 to 6, and there's a lot of other changes that's coming that I'll keep you guys posted on. And that's what it is. This is Hey Young World. Peace.